The relentless heartbeat of New York City was my soundtrack, the constant hum of traffic 12 floors below, the distant wail of sirens, the pulse of a metropolis that never slept. My world was one of predictable transactions, the sharp click of keyboard keys, the hushed negotiations in glass-walled conference rooms, the sterile silence of my minimalist Soho loft. I was a man of spreadsheets and strategy, not of surprises. Then Anya arrived. She buzzed up from the lobby just past midnight, her voice on the intercom a strained melody against the city's bass line. "My name is Anya Sharma. It's urgent. Please." When I opened the door, she was a vision of disheveled elegance, her silk blouse slightly askew, eyes the color of dark honey wide with a palpable fear. She wasn't from my world of hedge funds and high-rises, she carried the scent of jasmine and urgency. "I need a husband," she stated, the words leaving her in a rushed exhale. "By tomorrow." I arched an eyebrow, thinking it a bizarre pitch or a mistake. But the tremor in her hands, the genuine desperation tightening her features, it was too real to be a con. She laid it out in my sleek, cold living room, a complex trust fund set by her traditional, formidable father in Mumbai, control of which and the freedom it represented was irrevocably tied to her being married by her 28th birthday. Tomorrow. A cousin, Vikram, was poised to assume control of her life and assets if she failed. It wasn't about romance, she pleaded, it was a corporate takeover of her very future. She'd had me vetted. I was financially independent, legally clean, and famously, discreetly private. She offered a staggering sum for 1 year of a paper marriage. A merger, purely logistical. The cynic in me should have shown her out. But the pragmatist saw the numbers, and they were compelling. And something else. A flicker of her trapped spirit reminded me of the chains I'd once broken myself. "Fine," I said, the word hanging in the air-conditioned space. "But we do this my way." The next afternoon, in a bland municipal office downtown, we became husband and wife. The city clerk mumbled, we signed, and just like that, my orderly life acquired a chaotic, beautiful variable. She moved into the guest room, and our careful, contractual coexistence began. Anya was a storm of whispered Hindi phone calls and nervous energy, painting abstract, furious canvases in the corner of my living room she'd commandeered as a studio. I buried myself in work, maintaining the boundaries. But New York has a way of forcing collisions. I found her one morning, mesmerized by the sunrise gilding the skyline from my floor-to-ceiling windows, the anger momentarily softened from her face. Another night, during a sudden summer blackout that silenced the city's hum, we talked for hours by candlelight, not about the contract, but about the weight of family expectations, the art she'd abandoned, the solitude that can exist even in a city of millions. The ice thawed over shared takeout and debates about obscure films. I discovered a fiery humor beneath her anxiety, a profound artistic vision she'd locked away. The strict lines of our agreement began to blur. I felt the calibrated equilibrium of my life tipping, and terrifyingly, I didn't want to write it. Then the betrayal detonated. Vikram arrived at my loft, all polished menace in a tailored suit. He didn't shout, he hissed legalese and revelations. Anya hadn't just needed a compliant spouse, she'd needed a specific kind of armor. There was a pending, vicious family tribunal over her unsuitability, fueled by Vikram, and she'd used my reputation, my address, my very identity as a firewall. She'd hidden the true depth of the war she was in, turning my life into a strategic asset without my informed consent. The feeling of violation was acute. I'd been a blind pawn in a high-stakes family game. I confronted her in her paint-splattered studio. "Was any of this real, Anya?" My voice was cold, the voice I used for failed deals. "Or was I just a favorable clause in your contract?" The proud defiance finally crumbled. "It was a transaction," she admitted, paint-stained fingers gripping her elbows. "But you, the quiet way you listen, the city you've mastered, the peace in this space, that became real. I was so terrified of losing it, of losing you, that I buried the worst of it." The legal unraveling was swift, a battle of attorneys from her world clashing with the cold efficiency of mine. But the real negotiation happened in the silence after the lawyers left. I had to decide if the genuine connection we'd built could be salvaged from the wreckage of her deception. She had to learn that partnership required full disclosure, not strategic omission. Love, in the end, isn't a binding contract. It's a risky, unsecured investment. It's choosing to rebuild trust after the breach. One evening, after the papers with Vikram were nullified and the threat receded, we stood again at those vast windows. The endless lights of Brooklyn glittered across the river. No more mergers, no more desperate clauses. Just two people, a marriage that began as a line on a document, now navigating something as complex and sprawling as the city below us. I reached for her hand, not because a certificate said I could, but because in the chaotic, honest silence we'd forged, it was the only asset that mattered. Our story didn't start at City Hall, it began when the deal fell apart, and we chose, deliberately and fearfully, to write a new one together.